starting a new life was, and creating a new life without him was the biggest fear that you guys had. And I definitely can understand and relate to that. That was one of my biggest fears, because what's up, y'all? Y'all know I love my car. This is my favorite place to be because I get to be out in the wilderness, not wilderness, but I get to be outside in the nature without the bugs. So it's my favorite place to be. I just thought I'd give you guys a break from my office, and I just was not really trying to rush this morning. You know, this has been one of those mornings where I'm chilling. You ever have one of those types of mornings where you're just like on chill time? Like, you know what? Not about to rush today. This month, I've really been focusing on widow fears, and not just the fears themselves, but overcoming them, unpacking them, understanding them, communicating them, connecting about them, and eventually, moving through them. Overwhelmingly, you guys put starting a new life. Being alone was a close second, but starting a new life was, and creating a new life without him was the biggest fear that you guys had. And I definitely can understand and relate to that. That was one of my biggest fears, because, I thought my life was done, the planning part, and I was in the living part. So to have to be smacked back to reset, back to the start, it was extremely scary. So the first steps I had to really take to getting over the fear and pushing through the fear, I should say, of creating my own life or a new life without him, was first I had to get past my closed-mindedness. I had to get past the stereotypes that I grew up with. I had to get past the constraints that I had put myself in, not even realizing they were constraints, because they limited me. What am I talking about? Some of the limited thoughts that I had were, not wanting to be a single mom, not wanting to be a baby mama, not wanting to have these kids and no marriage, and feeling like that just was not going to work. So first I had to work my way out of that box, because that was a very comfortable box that I was in, since I was, among what I felt like was privileged and, had or made good choices or was raised right. These are the types of things that I grew up believing about myself because of the choices that I made. Now, it's not right or wrong. It's just the box I was in. So once I was put outside this box, kicked out of the box pretty much, I felt I had to get past feeling like I did something wrong, like I was already going to be chosen, or I was already going to be seen as a bad, choice maker. I was going to be seen as a person with baggage. I was going to be seen as a person that, was struggling all the time and broke all the time. Like, these were the things that were stereotypes that I felt like, were attached to solo mom. So I really had to break my way out of those by living through them, by telling myself, by actually saying them out loud. What am I afraid of about creating this life? That was one of the things, the solo mom, the single mom stereotype. The next box that I was stuck in was believing that there's only one soulmate, that you only get one guy, you only get one shot, that God has one person out there for you. And my thing is, if, let me back up. So at that time, that's what I believed. That's where the box I was stuck in. So I was terrified of living my life alone for the rest of my life, of feeling like nobody was going to be good enough. Nobody was going to love me the way he did. Nobody was going to love me for who I am, with all this solo mom baggage, with all of the things that are quirky and strange about me that I felt like only one person could love. And I just felt like it was going to be impossible to reach that standard of him and fall in love again, like actually love somebody else the way I loved him. So that was another limiting thought I was stuck in, as far as trying to create a new life without him. The way I had to break myself out of that box was, I thought to myself, what? If God is an omnipotent God, if he is omnipresent, if he knows everything that's going on, then why would he make it? And he loves us now, and he wants us to live abundantly and prosper. Why would he make it so that only one person is out there for us, if he knows the first person we choose and mold our souls to is not going to last our whole lives? Why would he do that? And then, when you have those negative thoughts in your head that say, well, because, that's just life, that's just the way it is, you just got to get over it and push through. Whose voice is that? Is that God's voice? Is that something God would say to you? Is that something, you feel like is omnipotent love? I didn't. Not me. I felt like God was saying to you, daughter, I knew your life. I knew what was going to happen. I don't make just one avenue for you to prosper. It may be love again, yes. It may be, some other path. But not only am I going to not shut your heart down and make it impossible for you to love again. That's not me. That's not God. That's not love. But I'm also not going to put you in a position where no one else is going to love you. I want you to think about that. I want you to really sit in that thought. And then it pushed me to start to research and really dig into other definitions of soulmates. And one of the definitions I came across was your soulmate is someone who understands you, someone who is capable of filling in some of the blanks that you have, and someone who is down for the long haul. Never in there does it say that person is permanent. Never in there does it say that there's only one person in the universe that's able to do that. My soulmate doesn't have to be my husband. Sometimes that soulmate could be my mom. Sometimes that soulmate could be my sister for this season in my life. And then there's the idea about seasons, reasons, and lifetimes. There are things and people that if we acknowledge everything here is temporary, there are things and people and things inside you that are going to be here for either a season, a reason, or a lifetime. I don't believe anymore. I had to break out of the box of believing that my marriage, because it didn't last a lifetime, it wasn't valid. Because it only lasted a season, that it wasn't love. And because it was there for a reason, learning from that reason has opened my mind to new love. So it checks all the boxes, and I had to jump out of my box in order to see that. So I hope that makes sense. That was one of the boxes I had to break out of before I could actually even entertain moving forward or creating a life without him. Another box, because I was like those nesting dolls. I was in a lot of boxes. Another box I was stuck in was believing that I was going to basically not be enough for my kids. I was not a man, so I could not raise boys. I was raised in a two-parent home, being raised with a man that stayed with my mom my entire life. So as an 80s kid, like the only kid left with two parents who was still married 40 years later, like the need for a man in the house or a second person as far as parenting was concerned, I felt like I was going to fail. I felt like I wasn't enough. And I had to break myself out of that box, because not only was Mr. Obama raised by one person, Mr. the President Obama was raised by one person, but the village in which I built around myself did not need me to have a man in the house. It was not based on the fact that, people build villages around their themselves and their kids with or without another parent, right? So I had to open my mind to my village. I had to open my mind to my resources. I had to stop thinking about what I don't have and start piecing together what I did have. Because sitting in what you don't have gives you what? A whole bunch of empty hands, a whole bunch of nothing. But sitting in what you do have fills your cup and allows you to drink from that and be fulfilled, right? So I had to think, okay, well, what do I have at my disposal? What men can I use to fill those spots that I felt like, I couldn't fill? I'm not going to teach them boys to stand up and pee. My dad was there. I'm not going to teach these boys how to fight. I can't fight. Do I look like I can fight? I mean, I do know jujitsu, but that came along later. So it was like, okay, I'll enroll them in a jiu-jitsu program, in a mentorship program where these, other strong black, white, men that were examples of pillars of the community were teaching them self-respect and self-defense and discipline and, giving them merit for being good, good students and good people. And when I brainstormed of all the things that I actually had at my disposal, I had to be like, see, I knew God wasn't going to leave me alone. And he's like probably side-eyeing me like, you actually asked me why I left you alone. You didn't believe in that for real for a while. But I'm like, okay, but I knew it now. Retroactively, I had figured it out. He like, all right, I've been here the whole time, but okay. But yeah, so I had to grow and really sit into these thoughts and really unpack why I was upset, why I was afraid, why I didn't want to move and to create this new life, and what was so bad about it, so that I could really analyze it and come up with good solutions that were already available to me. I didn't have to grow another arm. I didn't have to go to the husband store and buy me a new man, which I feel like if there really is such thing, patent pending, I trademarked it first, the husband store. But since there isn't one yet, I didn't have to go get me a new one. I didn't have to, I'll come out here and struggle so hard like I thought I was going to, when I had resources at my disposal. So think about the boxes that you're in. Think about how you can change your perspective, widen your horizon, and incorporate those things that are in your arsenal that you didn't really think about before, or that you may have been afraid to stand out on, to move yourself outside those boxes and get moving on creating a new life without your spouse. I love you guys. That's all I got for you. I feel like that's what I was built for, as a vessel for you guys, to encourage you, give you hope, give you tips, give you strategy, give you scripture, give you a word, give you a laugh, whatever it is that you need to connect to you as my widow sisters. Thank you. God bless you. Good night. I will see you guys next